Welcome to Weaving Resonance, where intuition, energy, and embodiment meet real life. I'm Anna Gannon, international intuitive psychic and intuitive development coach. After conducting thousands of readings for people all over the world and training hundreds of people in developing their intuition, I'm here to help you awaken your unique intuitive gifts, trust them fully, and embody their wisdom. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. It is so happy to be back. If you have been following along consistently, you probably noticed that I have been gone for a couple weeks. It's the summertime. I was in Greece and really enjoying time with my family. And I am excited to be back, though, and communicating with you guys, which is what we're going to talk about today, by the way. This idea that everything, including us, is always communicating, and how our communication and remembering that everything's communicating can get severed when it comes to where we put our attention. So before we get started, as always, if you haven't been around here, we always drop into a very, very quick kind of meditation, but not really. You don't need to close your eyes. We just want to land in our bodies so that we can really pay attention and be present and be able to absorb this information in and through our physical bodies, not just in and through our minds. So with that said, let's take a moment. If you have the capability right now to close your eyes and that feels like it allows you to drop in deeper, go right ahead. If not, just start to put your awareness within your body. And find a central place that your attention immediately goes within the body. So this could be your heart or the rhythm of your heart. This could be your belly. Maybe you're noticing your breath and how your lungs expand and contract with each breath in and out. And if you found that your attention more landed in your head space or anywhere really above the neck, just see if you could drop it a little bit further down into your body. It's just going to allow you to feel more grounded. That's all. And then today, let's just enter in a little bit of an affirmation. Just silently or out loud say to yourself, I am here. And notice that I am here is saying I am here in my body. I am here in whatever space I'm in. I am here in whatever town or state or country I'm in. And for all of us, I am here on this planet, Mother Earth, right? And in this universe, this galaxy, the Milky Way. Beautiful. So now that we're all in our bodies and already kind of feeling that connection and communication and the power of our attention, let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. And the reason why I really want to talk about communication and attention is because of, obviously what I do for a living is teaching people about intuition, and that has a lot to do with understanding how does our intuition speak to us, how does it communicate, and it absolutely is about where we are putting our attention. If we are putting our attention on our mind or in our outside of our bodies, right, we're not going to be able to get the intuitive information. But really, I've been paying attention to how plants communicate. When I was in Greece, I had a lot of experiences with different kind of insects, like a praying mantis, a cockroach, actually, which maybe I'll tell that story. But I've been noticing how much we miss communication with things that aren't humans. So that's what I kind of want to dial in today. And I'll start by just sharing that most of us, if you have a pet, right, in your home, like a dog or a cat, or maybe you have horses or some other kind of animal, or insect or reptile, you have probably noticed through your life that you can communicate with your animals and they communicate back to you. So for example, currently I have 2 cats, and I know what they're feeling or what they're going through without them speaking English, right? And they know what I'm feeling and what I'm going through without them speaking English, right? So we are constantly communicating through all different means. I notice what's happening with my cats through their posture, right? Through their body language, through how they move. I notice through their behaviors, right? Maybe different tones that they're saying, different meows definitely have different commands, right? My one cat, Rolly, he has a meow whenever he wants to go outside. It's a very specific sound, right? And then my other cat, Remedy, has a very specific sound when she's upset. So we are already understanding like nonverbal, really, communication with animals from the animals that we have inside of our home. What I would like to talk about today is how do we communicate with things that are always communicating with us, but we've simply stopped paying attention, right? So I'd like to start, as you guys know, I love definitions. And one of the definitions of communication, I'll read it to you, is an exchange of information that changes behavior. So communication is an exchange of information from one thing to another that changes behavior. Okay? So with that, think about any time that you saw someone that shifted their body language. Maybe they crossed their arms in front of them, right? Maybe they stood back from you and kind of gave you a facial expression of like a gaze, like a downward gaze. That is communication right there, an exchange of information that is going to change your behavior. You are going to act very differently in front of someone who has their arms crossed and is looking down on you than someone who has their chest open, maybe their shoulders back, who has a smile on their face, right? So immediately we receive the information, the communication, and then it changes our behavior and maybe the other person's behavior, right? If someone is standing across from you, like we said, arms crossed, they're looking down on you in some way, and they notice that you start to react by maybe taking a step back or kind of looking very concerned, maybe then they realize, oh my goodness, I look so defensive right now, right? I look so closed, and maybe their body language changes. So we are constantly changing each other through the information that is coming, right? And this really started to percolate for me when I was in Greece a few weeks ago. I was sitting on a beach. I had a moment to relax. My kids were in the water with my husband. And all of a sudden, I saw this little praying mantis come out of nowhere. And I've been going to Greece for over 20 years. My husband's Greek, his family's there, so I go there often. And I don't think I've ever seen a praying mantis. And at first, I was kind of feeling the praying mantis out, and the praying mantis was feeling me out, and it was definitely not going anywhere. It was hanging out with me. And there was very like thump, clubby music playing at this beach. And I noticed, and I was really enjoying the music, and I noticed that the praying mantis would start to dance. Like it would kind of like crawl and then it would start to dance. And I hung out with this praying mantis for like 20 minutes. And the closer that I got to the praying mantis and the closer that the praying mantis got to me, I started to be able to see its face and its facial expressions. And it was really, really cute. I started to notice when it kind of tilted its head to look at me with curiosity, just like one of my cats, Remedy, does all the time, tilts her head when she's really curious and feeling playful. And suddenly I started to understand that praying mantis and I were communicating in that moment. And my attention was so locked there because I was having so much fun enjoying this moment with this insect, right? And obviously, when I teach intuition, and for anyone that's listening to this that has went through my intuition training knows that one of the things that we really talk about is our connection to nature. And it's what we really dive deep into when we're learning how to activate our intuition. And just the other day, I was walking with my son, Atticus, and my daughter was away. So it was just him and I walking, and we started communicating with all the plants. I saw one of the plants had a little, just one of their leaves was kind of waving to me. And for me, that's always a sign that the plants want to play. When only one leaf is waving, it's a clear signal for me that they want attention, right? So I was teaching my son Atticus to walk up to different bushes, to different plants, to different trees, and to say hello and ask for them to wave back. And like clockwork, they all did, right? The only time when a plant didn't wave back is when they had some kind of severance in their signal. So I could tell that their branches were brittle, that they were either dying or not well. And so the signal, the communication was more challenging, right? They didn't usually respond. And I was teaching my son how to kind of pay attention and notice what that is, right? Which brings me to why I started this talking about these two words of communication and attention. Because, well, let me just read the definition of attention to you. Attention is the process of selectively focusing awareness on particular information while filtering out other information. Okay? Attention is the process of selectively focusing awareness on particular information while filtering out other information. So let's put this into like real life scenario. There are so many times when my kids are talking to me where I'm not paying attention, right? Maybe I'm on my phone. Maybe I am deep into some kind of thought, right? Maybe I'm doing dishes, whatever it is. And often, and they know this, if I notice, oh my goodness, they're talking to me and I've totally just missed the last few minutes of what they were saying, I'll always say, sorry, can you say this? Can you say that again? I wasn't paying attention. And I try to be very clear with them and very honest. I don't act like I know what they're talking about. I pause and I say, oh, actually, can you go back? I wasn't paying attention. And they never take offense because I've always communicated to them in that way. And the reason, and I invite maybe some of you to try this on, the reason why I say that is because I want them to also understand that our attention is constantly taken away. But when we bring it back, it's okay to be honest and to kind of say, hey, sorry, I was somewhere else. Everyone can relate to that. It's when we create these ideas that there's like these superhumans out there that can always stay super focused and they never go somewhere else. We're creating this like facade, and it's inhumane. It's not human, right? To not have your attention taken. It's a natural human response. So I have noticed, right? And just think about this. I notice that when I'm not paying attention, I'm somewhere else and my kid is speaking. I say, oh, hold on. Can you say that again? I wasn't paying attention. And what I'm really saying is I wasn't able to receive the information that you were just communicating to me because I wasn't here. I wasn't able to receive the information that you were just communicating to me because I wasn't here. I wasn't paying attention. So just take a moment to notice, right, how often you aren't present here. Your attention isn't present to receive the information that's there. If you are walking in nature, if you are outside in your backyard, if you are in a park, is your attention ever on, I wonder what that plant is communicating to me? When an ant crawls on you or you see a spider in your house, and I know this is a funny one, I'm not scared of spiders at all. I know many people are. But when you come across an insect, are you ever thinking, let me put my attention here and see what they're trying to share? What information is coming through? Right? So the cockroach story. My husband's family, his parents, they live at the top of an apartment building in a city in Greece. And I've lived in New York City, right? I've seen a lot of cockroaches. For some reason, after going to Greece all this time, I've never, I don't think, seen a cockroach. But this time around, I was leaving very early in the morning. I opened up their front door that opens into, a central hallway. And I saw this huge cockroach on its back. And it was alive. Its legs were moving. And I wasn't sure if it was, dying or if it was dying because it was just on its back. But old Anna, 10-year ago, 15-year ago, Anna would have screamed at the top of her lungs if she saw a cockroach and ran the other way. But now I get really curious and I'm like, oh goodness, okay, this is someone's story. Like this is this cockroach's life and I'm in front of it and not on my watch. I'm not going to let this cockroach die in this hallway. So I immediately grabbed, a cup and a piece of paper and kind of scooped it in and took it downstairs, walked down the steps, holding it and put it into the soil and thought, if it lives, great. If it doesn't, at least it died in the soil and not just, in a barren hallway where it will be swept up. And, I felt communication in that moment that cockroach didn't want to die there, that it, needed help, that it was on its back, right? That's that posture, that the physical information that it's giving me, like it can't flip over by itself, so I'm helping it. But there's something that happens when we really put our attention there to communicate and not to be scared and not to be somewhere but really be somewhere else, like when my kids are speaking but I'm somewhere else, right? Can we bring our attention back? So, I guess it goes without saying that we can't communicate without paying attention. If our attention is somewhere else, we're not going to get the information and communication will be severed. Now, obviously, when we think about attention nowadays, we think about how it's taken, social media takes our attention, and I'm on social media. I post on social media. I love to share there, but obviously it's a huge attention problem. We see screens with our kids. We see just people's attention being kind of hijacked left and right. So when I was kind of bringing all of this together to create this podcast episode, the main thing that I wanted to help understand is that if we don't have our attention somewhere, we're never going to get the information. We're never going to have that communication that I believe so many of us are craving. I believe that so many people are interested in intuition right now because they're craving communication and connection. They're craving it with themselves so that they can trust themselves again, so that they can remember that there is a guidance system within their own structure, their own body, their own energetic field, but that they also inherently remember that they are connected to everything beyond space and time, that the plants speak to them, that animals, insects, every living being, the stars, the moon, the sun, everything communicates with us and we communicate with it. So my invitation for our time together today is, and for after this, is to really see if you can open your attention and see if you can communicate with as many things as possible and be open to what you're receiving. So if you decide you want to communicate with a tree, and maybe you do what I was saying I do with my son, right? See if kind of the leaves wave back or if they come towards you or away from you, right? That's a physical response. But also notice the non-physical. Notice when you're communicating with the tree, how do you start to feel? If you start to feel sad, maybe something's going on with that tree, right? We know that trees communicate with other trees, right? If there's an invasion of insects or a disease that's taking over one tree, that tree will send signals through the roots, through the mycelium network, the fungus network, And it will send signals to other trees to tell them to start to produce certain defense chemicals against whatever is attacking this other tree, right? So you do the same thing when you're communicating with a tree. That tree is communicating with you. It's giving you signals of what it's going through. So again, if you feel sad, maybe something's going on with that tree. Maybe it's unwell, right? Maybe it's grieving. Maybe some of its branches were cut off. Maybe, another tree died and something, maybe it got hit by lightning, whatever it was, right? But pay attention without needing it to be some grandiose thing. Just sit there and notice, what do you feel? Maybe what thoughts come into your head, and see if you could also project out, right? So you receive information, then notice, can you project, right? So if you're feeling sad, maybe you project some love back onto that tree and just play. You might have heard me say this on the podcast. Many of you have heard me say it in trainings, or, pretty much anywhere I talk about intuition, I'm going to talk about play because that is the gateway to it. When you are in a space of play and imagination, you are opening those gates to your intuition. You are opening communication, right? By just putting your attention on, if this tree could talk, what is it saying to me right now? Through words, through thoughts, through emotions, through sense. What's the smell maybe that's coming off of the tree, right? So I want you all to play with this. Notice where you're putting your attention. Notice where you can communicate and open different portals of communication with the clouds, with the sun, with the moon, right? And just start to see, what does it feel like when you step back into being an interconnected being, rather than a being that's just sitting around feeling isolated, putting your attention on isolation or being separate. What happens when you put your attention on connection? So, with all that said, I do have a masterclass coming up in a week. So if you listen to this in this week and you haven't heard yet, I have a masterclass, an intuitive development free masterclass coming up on August 2nd. And I believe that it is 12 to 1 o'clock Eastern. So it's 1 hour. And this masterclass is all about the things that get in the way of you being able to even connect with your intuition. And we're going to talk about 6 things. So the main things that get in the way of someone being able to hear their intuition, which are fear, anxiety, desire, thoughts, emotions, and instincts. So we're going to really dial into what are these different things that create a lot of noise, that don't let you really connect with the wisdom, the intuition that is always there. So if those are any things that you've been struggling with, right? Is it my intuition or is this fear? Is it my intuition or is this anxiety? Is this my intuition or is this something I just really desire and want to be, right? Is this my intuition or is this just instinct, right? Is this more primal? Is this my intuition or was that just a thought? Is this my intuition or is that just an emotion that I'm feeling, right? Is that mine or is that a signal? So this is like a very, very common kind of questions that come up for me. And I wanted to create a masterclass so we can dial into all of them and allow you to have a practice to kind of bypass all the noise so that you can connect right to the signal. So you can sign up for that. I'll have a link in the show notes for you to do that. And also, if you haven't seen it, Intuition and Energy Intensive Training that only goes once a year is launched. It is kicking off September 26th, I believe. It's every Saturday for 10 weeks. And this is an intensive training, okay? 10 weeks straight. Every Saturday we meet for 2 hours and we master the language of intuition. We master how to work with your energy. You'll meet your spirit guides. You'll learn how to cut energetic cords with people that you have. You'll learn how to clear, how to ground, how to embody your signature frequency. Everyone has a unique frequency. You'll learn how to manifest, how to heal using energy, both in person and remotely, and a ton more that I can't even think about. But this is the third year that this has ran. Every time it is so beautiful. And more than anything, more than the information that comes through or anything that I teach, the most beautiful part is the group container that is built. These containers, people are still connecting and speaking to this day. They do readings for each other. They support each other. They communicate through messages, kind of distilling, what does this sign mean? What's happening in the energy field? So just the frequency of the group creates such an acceleration that everyone that moves through it then allows them to kind of really hit like max potential for intuition. So if you're interested in that, that is filling up. So just make sure as well, I'm going to have it in the show notes. If you want to sign up, early bird ends August 1st. So this is going to be launching on July 28th. So yeah, not too long, only a few days of early bird pricing left. And I believe when you sign up in full payment for early bird, you get 3 free session readings with me. So that's a new thing we're doing this year. I really want to be able to connect more with anyone that's going through the training one-on-one and kind of through the training have those touch points to support again one-on-one, because the support of the group has already been incredible. I'm not worried about that, but it feels good to me to know that I can also support you one-on-one through the process. So with that all said, I hope that you enjoyed this episode today. It was really cool for me to dive into it and think about it in this way. And I'd love to hear what happens for you when you start thinking about where are you putting your attention and how many pathways of communication that is opening up in your life. Please let me know what you start to hear and who and what you are speaking to. It would be such a joy to just sense all of that connection and connectivity that is rushing through all of us. Until next time, see y'all soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. If this episode supported you, please subscribe and leave a rating. That simple step helps this podcast grow and helps more people reconnect with their intuition in a grounded, embodied way. If you want to go deeper, take my 5-minute free quiz in the show notes entitled Unlock the Full Power of Your Intuition, where you'll discover your unique intuitive gifts, whether you're a knower, seer, feeler, or sensor, and learn more about how your intuition naturally speaks to you. Look out for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. I'm so honored to have spent this time with you. See you next week.